Hello there, what is going on everyone? Today I'm going to be talking about a big issue in the crowdfunding community today, and it goes by many different names, and Kickstarter being one of the biggest ones, GameFound also very, very big. This is an issue that is not exclusive to any given one, but is more or less found amongst all campaigns that are running, and there are quite a few. If you are new here to the channel, we do giveaways all the time. Love to have you on board. To enter to win any of our giveaways, you just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. You can also check out the links in the video description below. We have a Discord. You can keep the discussion going there. Patreon, other social media links, all that good stuff is down in the video description below. Let's go ahead and talk about the issue with crowdfunding, and there are several, right? There are several, and there's some that I'm not really going to go into too much, but there's a lot of different issues where sometimes you're having to decide if you want a game before you've ever played it. That's certainly an issue that happens with all of these. It's again, a lot of companies use it as a dedicated pre-order system. But there's also the issue of putting down a whole lot of money when you're not going to see anything. You may never see it. There are certain companies that are kind of famous for having never delivered their Kickstarter product. It's always a risk that a backer takes when they want to, go into a campaign. That's why you try to do a little research before, or ask around, or look at, hey, how many campaigns have they already delivered on? There's always that risk, or maybe it'll get delayed, or knowing which add-ons you're going to want to add onto a game when when you don't even know, like, is this game even going to need the expansion? There's some projects that I've backed and gotten expansions for where I'm like, this expansion actually makes the game worse. I don't want to use any of the expansions. I only want the core game. And then there's some where the expansions were like critical and you really needed them, but you didn't know it at the time, and I didn't get them and all of that. And so there's definitely a fair share of issues and concerns when it comes to crowdfunding tabletop games, but the biggest one is the one I like to call the Kickstarter exclusive. Even though this is not an exclusive issue only to Kickstarter, that's where the term sort of got coined, and definitely largely coined by Kaman, who was one of the big people to kind of make Kickstarter for board games really on the map. And with Zombicide and its success, and then all of their projects after that. So again, GameFound has the same aspect too, but for purposes of this video, I'm just going to call it the Kickstarter exclusive a lot. But I'm not only talking about Kickstarter. I'm talking about any kind of crowdfunding and any kind of exclusives that are only for a campaign that you can never get again. When a board gaming company is trying to exploit your fear of missing out, it can become a problem. I'm going to talk about some examples. So let's go back to Zombicide. Zombicide has had so many different variants, from the original Zombicide, seasons 1, 2, and 3. A lot of cool. There's just some of the Kickstarter exclusive survivors from Zombicide season 3, which they were doing like Big Bang Theory stuff. And those carried on through multiple campaigns. You had some in season 1, then some in season, or some in season 2, and then like all the rest of the gang came out in season 3. So it's like, now you have to get all of these. Then they did the medieval with the Black Plague series, which was the Zombicide Fantasy. They had like Monty Python and all of these other really fancy, cool, Kickstarter exclusives. And sometimes they would make certain ones available normally, and certain ones only available through an expansion, or certain ones that were Kickstarter exclusive. And then so like, it's just basically saying, look, you had better pledge or you'll never get anything. This is a problem for a number of reasons. I'm going to talk about different aspects of it because it's a different level of problem for different types of people. First type of person I'm going to talk about is the completionist. This is a big budget problem for the completionist, and I get it. This is a first world problem. Not that many of us are completionists, but I do know an awful lot of board gamers who are completionists. And this is definitely an issue when you're trying to get everything. It becomes very expensive. A game that might have been $89 on the store shelf can now cost you $400 when you get it via Kickstarter, which was, by the way, supposed to be a cost savings measure, because you're like, hey, I can get it early, and a pre-order, I might save 10% off of retail. And sure, you might, but you're also gonna probably want to get that stretch goal box, and you're probably gonna want to get those Kickstarter exclusive, all of these extra pledge things. And oh, by the way, if you pledge for the expansion, you're gonna get this extra Kickstarter exclusive miniature. And by the time you get all the little add-ons and everything that they've thrown in, I've had some that have been almost $1,000 if you went all in for certain Kickstarters, which can be a bit extreme, and a lot of this is based on that whole fear of missing out, exploiting the fear of missing out. Like, I need to make sure I get every single miniature. I will point out that Zombicide is an excellent game, and it's a very fun game system. It's a very great cooperative game. I love it. My personal favorite is the fantasy. Zombicide Black Plague was, for me, like the very, very sweet spot of hitting a fantasy game and also having the Zombicide fun rules. They fixed a few rules. They gave, they really improved the system a lot, and I think it's by far the best version of Zombicide. And I don't think it needs any Kickstarter exclusive content to shine. But those extra Kickstarter exclusives are a really nice benefit, especially if you're a completionist. And I kind of wanted to be with Zombicide, but I just couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford to go all in and get everything. But I picked and chose what I wanted to get, kind of just settling for the fact that, just gonna be able to get a few things, but it's still gonna be cool. I'm still gonna have a good time. And I definitely had a good time. I've played this a lot with the kids. The kids have loved it too. And I come to realize I have way more survivors than I can ever actually use in a game of Zombicide, even in many games of Zombicide. So there's they give you almost as many survivors as they give you zombies, and which is kind of funny considering most games of Zombicide use only 6 survivors and hundreds of zombies. So there's definitely the fear of missing out. I'm going to tell you a story about a situation I had when I was brand new into gaming, and that this Kickstarter exclusive issue played a part in giving me a little bit of a bad situation. Now, before I had backed my first Kickstarter, I had bought Zombicide. Actually, Zombicide Season 3 was my very first Kickstarter, but I had bought the original version of Zombicide, and I liked it, and so I picked up 1 or 2 expansions, and I had painted them, and I was going to my local sci-fi city on the second Saturday of the month for our monthly gaming celebration, where it was an all-day open board games. People would show up very early. People would usually bring some food, and food for everybody, donuts or what have you, and we would play games all day, and you could stay as long as you wanted, and it was just a really, really, really cool monthly tabletop gaming celebration. And so I used to like to go to this, but on my very first time going, I was very nervous because I did not know everybody. Actually, I practically knew 0 people that were regulars at the local gaming store, and I went down there and I brought Zombicide, and I said, you know what, this is a game that can play a lot of people, and it'd be a great way to meet new people, because I was terribly nervous going into a brand new store. I wasn't the same Crabbok that you see now. I was a lot more shy and nervous. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I didn't talk to people about games all the time. I was still learning about the hobby, and I'm this shy guy who walked into this game store with a game, and I said to some folks who were sitting around that weren't in games yet, and I said, hey, if anybody wants to play Zombicide, I'm going to set it up back here, and in kind of a shy voice. And one very vocal, loud, and particularly rude gentleman replied to me, and he said in a mean and nasty voice, I will never play that game. And I thought I had insulted his mother or something like that with the way he reacted. It was kind of traumatic. I didn't realize this at the time. Now, this is also, by the way, caveat for this story, this is an extreme example. So I'm not trying to say that this is what happens with everybody, but I'm using it to highlight a potential problem beyond just the fear of missing out. In that this particular gentleman, I would come to find out later on that he is very much a completionist and likes, any game that he likes, he'll want to buy. So he didn't want to play this because he knew that there were Kickstarter exclusives that were no longer available, and so if he were to like the game, he would never be able to have everything for it. And that does not at all justify his behavior, but I give you the example to paint the picture into the second part of this, and it's not just the fear of missing out, but it's the difficulty that can happen if you have a game and you're trying to get other people to play, because there are some people that will probably be way more polite than this gentleman was, but that might be reluctant to play a game with you if they know that it's got Kickstarter exclusives. Now, in the case of Zombicide, the extra minis aren't really a make or break deal, but let's look to other games Marvel United, for example, another fantastic game, very family friendly, very easy to play, very welcoming, cool game. Lots and lots of expansion content, and it certainly also by CMON has its share of Kickstarter exclusive miniatures, a lot of which are actually pretty recognizable and important characters to the story of Marvel, the more popular MCU, Infinity War and Endgame being like hallmark movies of the MCU, really, really powerful movies, and very recognizable. Well, not only does this game have a ton of Kickstarter exclusive characters that people could play, a lot of them being very important characters, this game also has Kickstarter exclusive expansions. If you could be playing the Infinity War saga in Marvel United, and that whole game mode wouldn't be available to somebody else. So if they said, man, I really like going up against Thanos and the Black Order and trying to get the Infinity Gems and stop Thanos from getting the Infinity Gauntlet, which is an incredibly recognizable storyline and incredibly popular films. I mean, Infinity War and Endgame, like some of the most popular movies of all time, very recognizable. To make that entire expansion Kickstarter exclusive is a much more likely example of, hey, I'm going to set this up, and other people are like, you know what, I don't want to play that because I may like it and I cannot get it. I cannot get it because it was Kickstarter exclusive. And that could be a real problem if you did go all in on a game like this and you did get the Kickstarter exclusive stuff, and you might have a more difficult time finding people to play with. Now, outside of your play group is where this is probably more likely to happen. I would wager that your typical gaming group is going to be fine with playing this with you because they know you, and if they do like it and want to play it again, they will be able to play it again with you. But I like to do things like, for example, go to a game store and play with new people, get to know new folks, or play at board game conventions. And that's really where you'll see people who are trying to learn new games discover what they may like and what they may not like, and like to add them to their collection. And I've seen cases where people are reluctant to play something because it has Kickstarter exclusives in it. I've seen multiple games where we're getting ready to play something, and somebody who was going to sit down and play with us asks, wait, is this Kickstarter? Or again, I'm using the term Kickstarter, but the question, the example applies to any crowdfunding type of game, because if it has exclusives and is no longer available, that can be the problem. Not just for the completionists, but for respective audiences that may want to play with you, that want to know that, hey, is this game still available? Can I get it? And yes, some games do go out of print over time, but this is a different type of scarcity that a lot of people can have issue with. This is even an issue in one of my favorite games, Cyberpunk 2077. I love the Cyberpunk 2077 universe. Gangs of Night City, one of the most recent games I've added to my collection from CMON. This one was also a Kickstarter. And look, the base game, the gameplay hasn't really changed very much. But people who are buying a game like this may very well have gotten into it because they're fans of the video game or the IP. And first off, they put Pan Am Palmer as a Kickstarter exclusive for one of the expansions, for the Families and Outcasts expansion, so you had to buy that expansion to get her. She's an incredibly important character. She's one of my favorite characters from the game. She was my favorite love interest from the game. Massively important character. But not only that, for Kickstarter exclusives, they have V, both versions, male and female V. This is the main character of the game. If this were Mass Effect, that would be Commander Shepard. If this were Star Wars, that would be Luke Skywalker. How can you keep the main character out of the game at retail? How can you do that? Anybody who is buying this game that knows nothing about Cyberpunk 2077 probably won't know and won't care, and will still be able to play the game and have an enjoyable time. But if you know a little bit about Cyberpunk 2077 and you buy this game, hey, it's cool that it has Johnny Silverhand in the box, but there's no V and no Pan Am? And there's plenty of other characters that are important characters. Evelyn Parker's moderately important. Emmerich Bronson's minimally important. And there's a lot more. I didn't capture all of the Kickstarter exclusives, but there are quite a few, ranging from virtually not important at all to extreme importance, like the main character. So again, sometimes the examples of Kickstarter exclusives or crowdfunding exclusives get taken way too far, and I think that is a shame when it happens, because it can negatively impact the retail ability of this game to succeed and for people to play the game with you. So that's some of the issues that I have with it. Now, what are publishers doing to make this problem better? Well, I will say that I am of the mindset that even though I personally have stuff that was promised to me as a Kickstarter exclusive, I have absolutely no issue with everybody being made available to get that. I think things that are exclusive should be time-sensitive exclusive, like, hey, you'll get it early with your pledge. And a lot of companies are doing this now. Early access to a game is an excellent reason to pledge to get something. Also, cost savings. Yeah, a lot of times you'll save somewhere around 10%, sometimes even more than that, by pledging early for a campaign. You're saving that publisher a lot of warehouse space. You're saving them from creating like 100,000 units when they might only sell 50, and then having 50,000 units just sit in a warehouse, having to pay rent for that warehouse, and then eventually having to sell them on clearance, at a fraction of what they were worth. So you save a lot of headaches, and shipping being crazy expensive nowadays, which is also a whole nother concern with crowdfunding. But shipping has gone up and up and up over the years, and by basically having cost-saving measures and having early incentives for you to pledge on these crowdfunding campaigns, everybody wins. You can save a little bit of money. They definitely are able to keep their business going and keep the doors open, which is what these publishers are trying to do. But the Kickstarter exclusives, the campaign exclusives still happen, and I think they need to be adjusted. A lot more companies are going with no exclusives now. Some of the more recent campaigns that I talked about in my last crowdfunding video, for example, Restoration Games has their Thunder Road Kickstarter going right now, and then the EVE online board game, the EVE game, also has no Kickstarter exclusives, but what you are getting is you're getting early access, and you're also saving a little bit off of retail, and I think that's great. Plus, you're getting the satisfaction of knowing that you helped bring something to life or get something a reprint, which is very cool as well. So I think those are excellent ways to do it. I think if you need to have Kickstarter exclusives, they should be things that are going to be available again, but maybe only once a year. Maybe we're only going to do a reprint for these once a year. And now all of a sudden, when I pull out Cyberpunk 2077 and somebody's like, well, okay, I will play that, because if I love it, I can at least get the base game now, and then I can wait for their yearly reprint and then pledge for the extra things that I want. And I think that could be an acceptable way to go, and hopefully, or go with alternate art. This way, there's no gameplay difference, and that could even encourage. They've done this before, I think, with Marvel United, where they mix up the exclusives, and maybe when retail comes out, it has a different version of the same thing. It just looks slightly different, or the box art is a little bit different. That a lot of companies have said, hey, you got the Kickstarter exclusive version, and the box art will change a little bit. Things like that are much less of an impact. Don't really hit your fear of missing out too much, but also don't deter new people from getting into a game. Not too many people buy a game exclusively for the box, although the appeal of the box is definitely an important thing. So those are my thoughts on the biggest issue facing Kickstarter, GameFound, and other crowdfunding games. It's this exclusives, and more and more companies are making their products available. Even things that might have at one point been exclusive are now eventually going to be available to everybody. So hopefully more and more progress on that front will happen in the future. But I want to hear from you guys. Let me know down in the comments. Have you pledged or backed games on Kickstarter or GameFound? What have your experiences been, and where do you stand on the Kickstarter exclusive issue? Let me know down in the comments below. You can also check out our Discord and keep the discussion going there. I have a winner to announce today for our latest $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. Today's winner is going to be TurtleWax88. Congratulations, TurtleWax. Go ahead and shoot me an email at mailcrabbok@gmail.com. and I will get you squared away. If you did not win, don't worry. We've got another round of the giveaway starting right now, so we've got about 2 weeks or so to enter to win that. I do usually announce winners towards the end of my videos. Hopefully, you will continue to watch throughout. And with all that being said, I want to thank my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for your continued support. To everybody else, may the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. The spice must flow. So say we all. Party on, dudes, and always wash your socks.